Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. I'm back with part 2 of What If Deku had a clone Quirk. Part 1 seems like it's doing great. I mean, y'all seem to be enjoying it from the comments, from the views, from the likes, all that stuff. Hey, I appreciate it. And shout out to that one guy that said that it should already have 20k views. I don't know who you were. I don't remember the comment, but I appreciate that. For all y'all that are showing love, I appreciate it. Yeah, I thought this would be a sick idea for a Quirk, a little bit different. I know someone in the comment section as well talked about how they had that a similar idea not too long ago as well. And frankly, dude, I think this is just a great idea in terms of a Quirk. But yeah, I'm not gonna waste that much more of your time. I just want to get right into the story. So let's get it. Izuku Midoriya gets ready for his Quirk assessment. But this Quirk assessment has a little bit more weight to it, especially because Shota Aizawa, other known as Eraserhead, has put a stipulation on it that whoever gets last place actually gets expelled. Izuku would wait his turn and watch as Katsuki Bakugo would go up first. Bakugo, who actually got number 1 in the UA entrance exam, would get ready to throw a baseball. As he gets ready to launch this baseball, he activates his Quirk and throws it as hard as possible. It goes flying, almost about 900 meters. Everyone is going crazy about it. Everyone thinks that's just amazing. That's insane. How are they going to compete with that? Izuku, not saying really a word at all, just watches as the other people go about their day as well. Even a girl throwing it to infinity. So it's not really crazy impressive that Bakugo was able to do such a thing. But eventually it was Izuku's turn. It was his turn to go up next. Izuku would make a clone of himself, the one with red eyes and one that had super strength. So he would walk up and everyone would be kind of shocked at what the Quirk is, and someone actually questioned if that's technically cheating. Is it technically himself? That's not really himself, but this is a Quirk assessment and this is his clone Quirk. So he walks up, or at least the clone of him walks up. As it grabs the ball, Izuku focuses all his energy into that said clone as he winds up and launches it. The ball goes soaring. And when I mean soaring, I mean soaring. It goes insanely far, about 1,500 meters. His super strength clone has gotten just tremendously stronger over the 10-month period, especially with training with the successor of All Might, or Melissa Shields. I mean, you would see insane benefits, especially from this, especially with training with someone else. Many in the class are in complete and utter awe, but Izuku just walks back in line and awaits the next event. The events would slowly but surely go on, and Izuku would show off a lot of his skills. On the grip strength, on the speed, on the side steps, anything you could really think about, Izuku would pretty excel in everything. And this would lead to him getting first place relatively easily. And it wouldn't really be a competition. He would just widely do extremely well on everything. He would get like 3rd, 4th place on the ball throw. He would get like 1st on the race and the side steps and stuff like that. And he would just do flat out insane things, which is kind of expected, ironically enough. Like I said, Izuku has success, extreme success in this regard. The Quirk assessment was a breeze. He would get 1st, and Invisible Girl, or Hagakure, would actually get last place. But of course Aizawa would expel her, but that next day we would see that she would be back and ready to go once again. When they arrive the next day, the next school day, Izuku would see that she is there. Aizawa basically says that he'll expel people how he sees fit, and as long as they understand the circumstances and the threat that is there, and that he can do whatever he wants to make sure that they turn out to be, well, perfect heroes, then they're fine. They're excellent. Izuku listens in as Aizawa explains more and more, eventually leading to actually hero training. Izuku knew about this already, and he awaits the arrival of All Might. All Might arrives busting through the door, saying his signature "I am here," and he explains that they'll all be doing hero training. And on top of that, they're going to be going and getting their hero outfits. Izuku would head out and would get the hero outfit that actually Melissa designed herself. Actually, these designs are based around his replication or his clone Quirk, allowing certain aspects to help the speed version of Izuku and the strength version of Izuku. And of course, there's going to be many more clones of Izuku to come, but those are all involving extreme stress on his body, extreme stamina drain, and also a lot of emotional creativity, you could say. With that said though, he gets on his hero outfit being very similar to the one in canon, but with far better basically technology and far better look. You could say it's like the one from that one movie, from that one My Hero Academia movie. It's that more advanced suit for Izuku, and there's so many more benefits to this suit, especially since Melissa had a good hand in making it. With that done, and with that said and done, and him all suited up and everyone else suited up as well, the heroes versus villains training is about to begin. All Might explains exactly what they'll be doing. The heroes would be in pairs, and they have to go seize the bomb within the building within a certain time frame. The villains need to basically take out the heroes, capture them, or avoid the bomb getting touched over a course of that same time period. And he begins to call out who will then go. He calls out Ochako Uraraka and Izuku Midoriya as the first as heroes, and the villains will be Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Ida. Of course, Izuku and Ochako do not know each other at all. In this version, Ochako was never, helped by Izuku. Luckily enough, there was someone else there to help her, but that's a little bit beyond the point. Izuku, unfortunately, wasn't there to help, but since things got moved around and Izuku wasn't actually there, it actually bopped Bakugo down one, and Bakugo was luckily able to help the quote-unquote poor girl. But he will never admit that. Bakugo's just, not the type. He doesn't want the gratitude, but he also doesn't want people thinking that he's a nice guy. It's just going to annoy him. Now it's time for the heroes versus villains to start. Bakugo and Ida head up to the building, and Izuku and Ochako begin planning what they should do. Izuku brings up that the clones he has have different aspects. There's different versions of him. He's only able to control 2, but he explains it. And they begin to talk about certain ways that they should go about this, eventually deciding on a more tactical approach, you could say. And using the levitation quirk or the gravity quirk of Ochako, they're going to use that and the combination of both of Izuku's clones to basically scale the building. Once they scale the building, they'll start from the top and work their way down. They believe this to be the best way to approach it, especially with knowing Bakugo will most likely pursue Izuku for a fight. But before that fight could occur, Izuku would actually pull out contacts, giving small little glazed over contacts to his speed version of himself, making his eyes look slightly more green, just enough so that it can actually confuse Bakugo into thinking that that is the real Izuku. So when they head up to the very top, work their way down, and Bakugo finally finds them, the speed version of Izuku would arrive at the scene looking like the regular Izuku, and they would have their little fight. But this would give freedom for Izuku and the strength version of him, including Ochako Uraraka, to find where the bomb currently is. As they arrive, it's only Tenya Ida, and since they caught him before he could actually clear out the entirety of the room, there's actually a couple things for Ochako to utilize. But on top of that, Izuku is able to regain his speed version of himself, bringing him back to basically within Izuku, and they begin to have their assault on Tenya, eventually leading to them touching the bomb, relatively easy in fact. Because when he retracts the speed version of himself, he's able to make that speed version as well, and that speed version is arguably, actually probably clear, faster than Tenya, so it was pretty easy to actually, win. Izuku would hear the alarms go off after the win is made, and All Might begins to speak on the intercom. talking about how the hero team has won. They head back to All Might, and they hear little critiques here and there, but overall, Izuku and Ochako did very, very good, and Bakugo, he needs to work on his awareness. Knowing that Izuku had a clone quirk, he shouldn't have got sucked in that bad to a fight with Izuku. And all it took was a simple decoy, and it put him away entirely out of the battle. Izuku kind of chuckles at this, but Bakugo is pissed. Bakugo tells them that he's going to be better than all of them, and that they won't even stand a chance at keeping up. But of course, Izuku doesn't really mind any of these words that are being said, and he doesn't think much about it. After that day is over, he continues his training with Melissa, and they begin speaking about how school has been going so far and how she enjoys it. And she says that she enjoys it pretty much. She always thought that she would be over in America or on the island for the majority of her life, just inventing. But now that she has power like this, and that she awakened basically power like this, that she'll be able to take that next step into actually being both, helping as a hero and also helping as a support hero. In which Izuku kind of envies this, saying that is great, it's fantastic, it's something that he's definitely would have loved to do. In which actually Melissa does bring up something. She brings up the fact that he is intelligent on his own, but has he ever thought about any emotion that would lead to giving him some sort of hyper intelligence with one of his clones? Of course, Izuku hasn't thought about this at all. He's thought about the angry version of him, he's thought about the energetic or the excited version of him, but he hasn't really thought about anything else. The sad version of him, maybe something like that. Would that do something would that give him intelligence? Probably not. But there probably is some other emotions that would give it to him. What about the cocky version of himself? The overconfident version of himself? Well, that would probably fit the mold best, but he can't really do much about that at this moment. He needs more time to train and actually learn how to do that. He's quote unquote mastered these other two versions of himself, and he does think that he needs to go on to another version, but that's such a difficult process. He still needs time just recouping, and that process will take a long time. Melissa encourages him to basically try his hardest, to push himself beyond the limits that he possibly could, and that even herself, she has seen limits that have been broken because of Izuku, in which this does motivate Izuku a far bit, and they would get some more training time together until a couple days would pass, and Izuku would be introduced by Aizawa to rescue training. Everybody would be introduced to rescue training. The USJ is something that they all use, that UA uses and everyone else uses to prepare for a lot of situations. Aizawa explains this and says that the person there at the USJ will explain more, so they're going to hop on the bus and head over. So they hop on that said bus, they begin to head over to the USJ as they speak about who they believe to have the best quirk, in which it's really between Todoroki and Izuku, but also Bakugo as well. Bakugo is extremely powerful, and there is no reason to underrate him in that regard, but Izuku feels that he has the best quirk, most likely. I mean, think about it. There's a lot of scenarios that he could eventually come up with that would save a lot of people, and ironically enough, he might be a hero, but a rescue hero is something that he'll probably thrive at. He has a super strength version of himself that can carry things at insane weights. He has a speed version of himself that basically can save people at a blink of an eye. And soon he'll have more and more people like himself that are going to be able to do different jobs. And on top of that, it's multiple versions of himself. So they're going to have similar or the same powers as him. And on top of that, the additional quirk, of course. After a while of debating and talking and so on and so forth, the class was kind of split, but eventually they would arrive. Aizawa would tell them all to be quiet, and they would all head in to the USJ. But none of them would know. None of them would exactly know what they were in for. Those steps, climbing those steps and opening those doors, and the greetings by Pro Hero 13, they had no idea that what was coming was something catastrophic, something that was terrifying. The USJ soon would be full of villains, but before that could even occur, Izuku would get this weird feeling, anxiety flushing over him, being terrified. It's weird. He's so anxious, feels like his skin is crawling as if it's bubbling and he can't help but scratch his arms. Something is coming. As he does this and as he feels these things, well, let's just say he separates into someone and something that has purple eyes. It's himself with purple eyes, and that version of himself that is connected to the first Izuku, the one that has the clone Quirk, he can tell something's coming, as if he had some sort of psychic connection with the environment around him. This version of Izuku has some sort of psychic quirk, and he immediately turns toward Aizawa, telling him that something is coming, something real bad. As he says this, and as that version of Izuku says this, he disappears, as Izuku is not used to holding that version of himself up, unable to keep him there, but the warning was good enough. Aizawa then basically sends somebody immediately out, being that of Tenya Ida, to escape before anybody else could even invade. He's told to run as fast as possible, as quick as possible. And he questions slightly why Izuku doesn't do it, but Izuku's clones cannot go as far as Tenya can. And Tenya just bolts off before any villains even arrive. But as the villains arrive, it's still going to be one hell of a challenge. Izuku watches as portals open, villains pour out, and they all stand in front, mocking the heroes. The students will now feel the wrath of the League of Villains, especially because All Might is not there. Izuku tries to ask Aizawa if he could help out, but Aizawa doesn't say a word, jumping into action. But before he could even know it, Izuku is sucked into a portal and put somewhere the USJ. He's immediately in some water, and he uses the clone of the super quick or energetic clone to get himself out of it as they run up onto a boat before even Asui can react to help him. They look down to see that there are a ton of villains below. Izuku believes this is, well, not the best course of action, and they're kind of in a bad spot. He looks to his right to see Asui and his left to see a crying Mineta, and he questions and asks what they plan on doing and what they should do. Izuku says that he has a version of himself that is extremely fast, and they might be able to get some speed and have good distance if Asui can carry them the rest of the way. But the other question is really trying to get the other, well, people below to not follow them. Asui comes up with a small plan, and Izuku chimes in as well. They'll use that the speed version of his clone to get a good jump start. Once they do that, they'll switch to the strength version, and they will all grab onto Izuku, and Asui will wrap her tongue around all of them. As she does this, the strength version of Izuku will dive toward the water, slamming as hard as possible into the water to make some sort of whirlpool. Mineta will start throwing the balls on his head to stick them together and capitalize on the weaknesses that the people underneath them truly have, getting them stuck within the water and keeping them there the entirety of the fight. So the plan, they decide to go about it. Izuku's clone, or the clone with yellow eyes, sprints off as quick as possible and immediately gives them good distance within the air. Asui grabs onto them. The strength clone goes diving into the water, smashing into the water, creating a giant whirlpool, and they all get sucked into it. The plan went without a hitch, and they're able to get across the river or the pond relatively fast, and they're able to get into a position where they can hide out, at least for the moment. Izuku talks about they all need to meet up with their classmates and head back up to where Pro Hero 13 is. As they look over, they're very worried. Pro Hero 13 could be in a bad spot right now, so they need to get out and help. Asui brings up the fact that maybe Aizawa needs some help as well, and Izuku says that they will make sure to get over to where the students are or the rest of their classes, and Izuku will help with Aizawa. They question why him, and he says that he can stay a far enough distance that Aizawa won't have to worry about him. He'll only have to worry about the clones. The clones will be able to do most of the work. Izuku and everyone agrees, and they begin running up to the rest of their classmates to relative safety. But Izuku peels off, creating both of his clones once again, as it kind of tires him out. But luckily, he's in a spot where it doesn't necessarily matter. He can sit down and kind of hide within the grass or kind of weird environments so that he's not going to be seen. He sends out the speed version of him, and it begins to trailblaze back and forth, taking out a ton of the villains, and the strength version helps with some of the brutes that are currently there that are overwhelmingly strong. Not overwhelmingly strong for, well, Aizawa, but definitely can save him some energy by being able to put them down. Izuku's clones are able to clean up the mess that Aizawa basically started and be able to clean up the rest of the villains that are currently there, but these are just low tier villains that are really nothing really to care about. These are villains that Aizawa could have beaten if he was given an extra couple minutes. But now the real challenge is here, and that is Shigaraki, the Nomu, and Kurogiri. Because once they see that giant monster coming out of that portal, the worry and the pit in their stomach drops, because this is an issue. All Might is currently not here. They don't have the raw strength to take this thing on, and frankly, most pro heroes don't have the raw strength to take this thing on. Izuku keeps his clones out there, and his speed clone or his energetic clone is able to bounce back and forth to help Aizawa and basically maintain any distance they possibly can and confuse the Nomu here and there. Of course, Shigaraki tells Kurogiri to find that kid wherever he is. They need to get the clones to stop. But of course, Izuku is relatively hidden and hidden relatively well, but they do bring up the fact that his clones have to have some distance decay. They have to be basically so far enough away, or he has to be close enough to the clones that they actually work. Izuku hears them kind of talk about this, and it worries him drastically because this could put them in a massively bad situation. So he decides that he's going to put everything in the hands of his clones here. He's going to dump out the rest of his energy right now, and he's going to hope for the best. As he focuses as hard as he possibly can, the clones disappear. It seems that his stamina has run out, and he no longer can help Aizawa. But as he believes his clones disappeared, and as he believes that, well, there is nothing there and he can't help, his hands begin to shake extremely fast. But there's a reason for this. He looks up to see a face that nobody would want to see. A bird-like creature with teeth terrifying. A creature that is so huge that it looks bigger than All Might himself. Izuku stares at the creature dead in its face as it hovers above him. Izuku looks at his hands as they twitch, speed up. They go faster and faster and faster until the Nomu tries to punch Izuku like a pancake, trying to squish him into the ground. But out of nowhere, Izuku's gone. He's where the students are. In an instant, Izuku was out of there. What happened? Who helped him? All of his classmates look at him in confusion. Some, like Kirishima and many others that just arrived once again, question why his eye color changed. And why does it keep changing? Izuku's confused, but then realizes something. He just used the super speed himself. He just, out of connection and out of complete stress and him needing it, he somehow connected with the clone and utilized its quirk slightly and just for a moment's notice. But as he realizes he does this, he can feel that his body is aching. His legs are injured, as if his body alone is not built for this quirk, which in a way would be true, because genetically, when he clones himself and he makes a different version with a different quirk, those genetics are altered. They're altered to fit that said quirk, not the clone quirk. So when he utilized that speed quirk and he utilized that energetic version of his quirk, that side of his clone quirk, it completely destroyed his legs, or at least to the point that they hurt like hell. He collapses on the ground, but he looks up and it seems that he gave Aizawa enough time to at least get to somewhat safety. But real safety would arrive right when the doors swing open and All Might is here. All Might comes barreling down, but he's not the only person there helping. All Might and Melissa have arrived. They go swinging toward the Nomu at insane speeds, smashing into the Nomu with a double Detroit smash. In an instant, the Nomu gets sent launching toward the back of the USJ. They both dash toward the Nomu, striking it straight up as it gets launched out of the USJ. They turn toward Shigaraki, and Shigaraki slightly smirks, but then at the same time has anger in his eyes. He's frustrated. Yeah, they might know or have a clue who the successor of All Might is, but does it matter when they're this far along? Is this going to put a hamper in their plans? He's pissed now. The overwhelming feeling of knowing something that they needed to know, but now it's all changing within his mind. They might know who the successor of All Might is, but does that matter when they're this far along? When the potential there seems to be greater than All Might? Frustration boils over, and Shigaraki charges forward toward All Might and Melissa, but Kurogiri knows better. Kurogiri warps them all out, and out of nowhere, they're back at the base of the League of Villains, waiting for a call from All For One. And when the call would arrive, All For One would tell them to stay calm and be ready, because the time is coming, and it will come. It may be later, and it might be not as soon, but the time of war and the time of getting what they want will come. They are playing the long game. As villains, that's what they must do. Back to where the heroes are currently, All Might and Melissa luckily have saved the day, have saved them all. And frankly, Izuku sitting there just happy that everything's okay. In raw strength, he would not have been able to keep up with that Nomu. Not one bit. He's just happy everything worked out for the best and that nobody truly got hurt. Melissa helps him up, and they all head out and go to Recovery Girl. Izuku has some recovering to do, but with the UA Sports Festival on the horizon after such a catastrophe that just occurred, we'll have to see how good Izuku is and see where his mind is when he goes in to the UA Sports Festival. But that is for the next part of What If Deku Had a Clone Quirk. And if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, make sure to leave a sub, make sure to leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.